When it comes to myths, stories, and creation stories of the ocean, there are many cultures and myths. One example is the Polynesian myth. In Polynesian myth, the ocean was formed when Tangora, the god of the sea, claimed his domain, separating waters from the land and creating endless expanse for marine life. With his command, the tides began their eternal dance, giving birth to boundless ocean that continues to thrive. In Hindu mythology, the churning of the ocean, or Samudra Manthan, was a cosmic event performed by gods and demons to obtain the nectar of immortality, using Mount Mandara as the churning rod and the serpent Visuki as the rope. They churned the ocean, producing divine treasures, including Armet and the goddess Lakshmi. This myth symbolizes the balance of cooperation between opposing forces and the pursuit of the greater good. When comparing Polynesian myth to Greek myth, Tangora, the god of the sea, claimed his vast domain, creating a sanctuary for marine life. Meanwhile, Greek mythology tells of Oceanus, the titan who embodied the boundless waters encircling the earth. Both cultures revered the ocean's immense power through Polynesians celebrated its harmony with nature, while Greeks saw it as divine force in a cosmic hierarchy. Maui. Maui, the mischievous demigod, was born from his mother and his divine father, Meke Tutara. From his father, he was gifted with strength and cunning. He performed extraordinary feats, fishing up entire islands from the ocean, slowing the sun to lengthen the day, and bringing fire to humankind. Yet his ambition knew no bounds, and he sought immortality for humanity by entering the sleeping goddess Hinutipo to steal her heart. But as the goddess awakened, Maui's plan failed, and she crushed him, ending his life and sealing his fate. Through his journey, it ended in tragedy, but Maui's deeds forever shaped the world, leaving a legacy of courage and transformation. Beasts of the sea, mermaids. Mermaids have been sighted across many cultures around the world. They've been depicted in many pieces of art and as decoration on many ships. They are seen as an ocean folk, or even storytellers, or the draw in a story. Often, they are seen as beautiful and kind, but can also be depicted as luring sailors to their deaths. A possible real-life version of them could be sea manatees, easily mistaken to be mermaids. I don't know how. They look like sea cows. The importance of mermaids is that they symbolize how the ocean has a dual of both beauty and danger. In many ways, they can embody the freedom and the vast unknownness of the ocean, but they are also cautionary figures. The Kraken. The Kraken can be seen across many cultures at sea and serves as a warning to sailors about being too far out at sea. This vast beast has been depicted in many stories and forms of art. While it is most likely not real, its closest to real-life counterpart, or possibly mistaken being, would be the colossal or gigantic squid. In the early days, these creatures were under-researched and not known very well. But these days, they are very much a reality. But, other than that, the Kraken is known for sinking many vessels and being a cautionary tale to many sailors at sea. Sirens. Sirens share a lot of similarities to mermaids in the fact that they are half woman, half fish creatures that swim out at sea. But more than mermaids, they are focused on the horror aspect or the cautionary tale aspect. They are told to sing songs that lure sailors or anybody at sea to their deaths into a watery grave. Sometimes, in stories, they'll use it to explain the disappearance of ship crews. That, or warnings not to listen to anything at sea that might be dangerous. Typically, these stories are related to bad storms or late nights at sea. They're similar to the Greek sirens, which are half-woman, half-bird creatures that lured sailors by the sweetness of their songs. Sea serpents. These creatures are also seen in many cultures, along with olden-day stories, along with being on almost every map you will ever see of the ocean. They might be commonly mistaken for an oarfish, or maybe just the mangled corpse of an animal that washed up on a beach, like a whale. But there are some stories that are hard to deny, like the incident at U-Boat 85, where a German U-boat team encountered what they described as a sea serpent. It tore up the front of their hull, and they had to hit it with small arms fire at the surface. Though this story cannot be confirmed, it shares many similarities to many other stories told of sea serpents at sea. Leviathans and beasts untold. This slide is for all the creatures that I couldn't specifically cover. All the stories of giant whales and big deep-sea creatures that make loud noises and Cthulhu-like entities that are mentioned in many cultures across the world but are not classified as their own creature. Almost every culture has some sort of giant leviathan or story to warn of going at sea or maybe not angering a certain god. These creatures have always existed and will always be some of the most interesting stories. I believe that sharks deserve their own page, as many of them have their own unique stories. Like the stories of megalodons, thought to be dead but have returned. Or just giant sharks in general. A very interesting and mostly unique to Polynesian myth is human sharks. One good example is Nanue. Nanue was the son of the shark god and immortal woman. Born with the ability to transform into a shark, as he grew, his hunger for human flesh became uncontrollable, leading him to terrorize villages and nearby waters. Eventually, the villagers discovered his secret and chased him away, leaving him to roam as a figure of both fear and mystery in Polynesian lore. In Polynesian culture, sharks are often revered as symbols of strength, protection, and guidance. They are often seen as guardians of the sea, embodying resilience and adaptability. They are believed to protect sailors and fishermen from harm, and to be just general good spirits at sea. They are usually seen as a good omen sent from the gods. Ghost ships and ghost stories. It is not strange that ghost culture, while already common across all of human culture, is very prominent at sea. As in early days, and even up to modern day, many people have lost their lives to the ocean. Sailors and other sorts of cultures that might be sea-bound or sea-bordering have told stories of ghost ships entering port during hard storms, lost crews of submarines, or the ghosts of sailors showing up on decks of ships. Many people believe that the ocean has a connection to hell or God itself, and that this is a thin layer between our realm and the world of the dead. Many people believe that there are demons at sea, waiting to pull people to a watery grave or lead them down a shallow path. It is believed, though, that many of these ghost stories can be easily explained, as food, hydration, and alcohol usage were all problems at sea. Many people were starving, drunk, or just nutrient deficient. They might have been coping with those by their vision might have been impaired, or they may have been confused, seeing things that might not make sense, such as ghost ships or visions of dead crew members. A lot of people describe seeing ghosts under the surface of the water, but that can be explained by squids and other bright creatures that might surface, like jellyfish. The Flying Dutchman is a legendary ghost ship doomed to sail the seas for eternity, unable to make port due to the cursed captain's defiance of divine forces. Sailors often recount sightings of its eerie glow, considering it an omen of misfortune or impending storms, usually seen before bad events occur or high amounts of mortality happen. The last sighting of the Flying Dutchman was allegedly during World War I, during a sea conflict in European waters, by a member of the Royal Navy. The myth of Davy Jones originates from maritime folklore, where he is depicted as a malevolent spirit or sailor's devil, claiming the souls of those lost at sea. Sailors feared being sent to Davy Jones' locker, or the locker, an eternal watery grave at the ocean's depths. Over time, the legend evolved, blending with pirate lore and becoming a symbol of the perils and mysteries of time at sea. He's often seen as a harbinger of death, there to collect souls even before the tragedy happens. He was seen at sea when the Royal Navy first ventured out, being reported as a blue, devil-like creature that would sit up in crow's nests or on lines. The last alleged sighting was during the USS Indianapolis. Common practices and superstitions. The keeping of cats has been common at sea since, forever. Cats were thought to bring good luck and fortune upon sailors, especially black cats. But black cats can come with a caveat. Crossing the path in front of them was alleged to cause bad luck. But other than all this luck nonsense, cats also kept mice away and other small problem rodents, along with bringing up morale for sailors. This was very good when you were at sea for many months. Another practice, with some superstition behind it, was keeping women off of ship. It was believed to bring bad luck and to bring danger aboard the vessel, as this might cause possible storms or problems to happen at sea. The real reason for this would probably be the fact that early day sailors were very unkept and unkind men who would have been harsh to a lady or even harmed or hurt her. Luck. Bad luck has been something that many sailors dread. They wear tattoos and do certain rituals to avoid these types of problems. They believe some people can be born unlucky and just bad to be around. Typically, new guys are seen as unlucky and are typically avoided. Luck is seen to affect how a ship sails, how a crew works, or even just small things. They believe many things can affect luck, even something as silly as transporting bananas. Though the reason for this is probably because bananas, while they spoil, can corrupt and damage other fruits. Ship launching. You've probably seen many videos of people smacking a bottle on the side of a ship before they drop it into the water. The reason for this in sailor tradition is to bribe the gods of the ocean, be it Neptune or anyone else, with the sweet taste of liquor. This is seen to protect and give good luck to a launching ship while it's at sea, to keep it safe from the hardships and the wrath of the ocean as it sails among the waves. Whistling is a common practice at sea. It's a good way to keep cadence, along with motivate other people. It was typically believed back in the day that whistling would summon wind to make your ship go faster, or to make the crew work faster. But it was strictly told not to whistle at night, as this would be a bad omen, summoning storms or creatures of the sea to come aboard. Typically, sailors were prohibited from whistling at late hours. Tattoos. Tattoos have been a common practice among sailors for many years. This, funnily enough, originated with Polynesian cultures, as they were seen as runes, protection, and charms for battle. As sailors went among the sea and as Europe conquered more islands, many sailors learned of these myths from the Polynesians. They too took up tattoos. Many sailors see them as good luck charms or a good way to tell their story. Either way, almost every sailor has a tattoo. These tattoos can also represent honors and things earned, such as a shellback tattoo, or when you drop your first anchor, you get an anchor on the inside of your thumb. This section on the rites of passage will mostly be covered by Eugene Darrell Douglas and Chief Marsh, as they have both undergone these rites of passages. One of these rites of passage, when crossing the line, is known as shellbacking. Any sailor who has never crossed the line is called a pollywog. When they cross the line, they become a shellback, but they must first go through Neptune's trials and challenges. This can typically involve hours of PT, crawling around on deck, or doing many challenges specially chosen by Neptune. Grog drinking. Grog drinking is very common among chiefhood. Grog drinking. Grog drinking is common among young chiefs that are becoming... Oh my God, you fucking... Grog drinking. Grog drinking, very common among aspiring chiefs, is seen as the rite of passage. The grog bucket, or tub, is a giant vat of whatever sailors pour in for their new chief. Previous chiefs will put in their favorite type of alcohol, or they'll mix in completely random things. Like back in the day, they had to cancel this obviously, they put jet fuel in it. This is seen as the final test for a chief, which you will learn about from Chief Marsh now.
I was a chief petty officer.
Chief petty officer in the Navy. How many years did you serve?
23.
23. What sorts of traditions were common when you got into the Navy?
Oh, a lot of the guys that I worked for, so I came in '96, and a lot of the guys I worked for were Vietnam era, late Vietnam era, and it was rougher back then. The some of the traditions got a little out of hand, and went towards hazing. But the idea was good. They were still based in old naval traditions, and they had to be rough back then because you had to prove that you were strong enough to make it through a sea voyage. And so some of those traditions came about was testing you to see if you were going to be able to survive the rough voyage. But as the years went on, we changed that focus and focused a little more on the history aspect and the camaraderie, building of it. So probably one of the most famous is what we call the shellback ceremony, right? When you cross the equator. And it's a lot of fun and games. You do have a lot of fun. But in the old days, there was a lot of beating, like literally physically whacking people with sticks and fire hoses. So as the decades went on, we kind of got away from that and focused a little more on, hey, this is a unifying, building, team building kind of process.
What were some of the other traditions they have? Do you have a couple examples?
Yeah. I mean, the probably of all the military branches, the Navy has the most weird traditions because, the newer branches like the Air Force, they haven't been around as long. But the Navy goes back to ancient times, people sailing off the horizon. So, weird traditions like calling a ship she, female. Um, Bananas are considered bad luck. Weird stuff like that. Um, so, uh, messing with the new guy, the young guy that doesn't know anything, a lot of lighthearted jokes, a lot of pranks because you're bored at sea. Um, those are those are still very common. Um, when you make chief petty officer, there's a whole process. It usually lasts about 6 weeks, and it's a lot of good-natured fun. Lots of learning opportunities, but it's hard because they want to test you to see if you'll be able to handle the stresses of dealing with people, uh, and still maintaining a good attitude.
What could you tell me about the process of becoming a chief petty officer, like the grog drinking, the ceremonies, those types of things? What you can talk about?
Sure. It you are you're tested by the other chief petty officers, right? They control your 6 week testing process. We carry a logbook everywhere that you go, and you have to go to every chief you can, and get kind of like their words of wisdom. They literally you have to ask them to sign into your book, and they'll write lessons for you so that years later you can go back and look over it and be reminded of some of these hard won lessons. So carrying your logbook, and because it's so important, the wisdom of the people who came before you, we have to build these very intricate boxes to carry the book in. So you build it out of wood and you decorate it a very certain way, and it becomes your most valued item because it contains the wisdom of those who came before you. So one of the traditions is people try to steal your book, and then if your book gets stolen, you pay dearly to get it back. Um, Memorizing lots of old historical things, old songs that were sung at sea for hundreds of years. Um, Constantly being questioned about things by everybody, because when you get to this leadership position, you're going to constantly be questioned about things. Why are you doing that? Explain yourself. Those sort of things. Every day we were going to be asked to tell a joke by somebody because when you're at sea in stressful situations leading people, maintaining a good sense of humor is important. If the boss is freaking out and stressed, well, then all the people below you are going to be freaking out and stressed. So we wanted, good humor is vital in stressful situations like that. I had to carry a spoon everywhere I went, and if my spoon got stolen, I would pay dearly because, part of the job now that you're the old guy who knows things is you have to feed that information to the people below you, and the spoon was a reminder that that's part of your job. Yeah. And then it all culminates in a final night where you're severely tested over everything you've learned. In the old days, it involved a lot of it was hazing. eating weird stuff, drinking weird stuff, um, going out of your way to make the other chiefs laugh. Um, the Navy got away from that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to focus more on, like I said, coming together as a unit, getting to know the people that you're going to have to rely on in that weird, unique leadership position. So they got rid of some of the stuff that might have been fun for the other people, but wasn't terribly helpful for the person going through it and learning. Eating weird garbage doesn't really help you learn anything.
Well, thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
I am here today with Petty Officer Second Class Douglas.
Surface Warfare Fleet Marine Force.
Okay.
Good morning.
What was your favorite tradition or superstition that you saw when you were in the Navy?
I thought the retirements, when we cast shipmates from the ship and we had to use side boys and all the pomp and circumstance that went together to celebrate someone's career, or at least someone's work that they did at the command before they were sent to the next command. So the Navy's steeped heavily in traditions and ceremonies and honors that date back way past the colonial Navy, even to the British Navy. So I always think that was one of the best things about the Navy, was how those traditions would even carry over to today, with having side boys at retirements and even at funerals when they cast a sailor off for a longer voyage.
What was a tradition that you saw leave the Navy over time that you wish did not get retired?
One of the biggest things is when you made rank. It was called frocking. Before you put on you put on the rank, but before you were paid for it or put at that rank, you would wear the emblem or the crest of petty officer, and then other petty officers who came before you, or senior NCOs, would then basically tack your new crow or your new rating on in a physical nature. Did it get out of hand? Sometimes, but for the most part, it was kind of just one of those traditions to make sure that you understood the importance of rank and all of the things that came with, and the rights and responsibilities of that rank. So I thought it was kind of a neat tradition that the Navy had about frocking or pinning certain things on. I'm sure everyone's heard stories of where they punch jump wings into people's chests and all that. The Navy did that as well, with punches over your arm, but it was never malicious. It was always, everyone was just proud of you, and men being men.
Could you tell us about your shellbacking experience?
Absolutely not. No, of course I can. So it's a fine Navy tradition that's dated back very long ago, when a ship crosses the equator in any form. Mine happened to be in the Indian Ocean, off the coast of Africa, when we crossed into the realm of Neptune or Poseidon. It's a Navy tradition. It's not often that ships go trans-hemispheric, and when they do, they make a big deal of it, and they pay homage to the theory or the mythology of Poseidon and Neptune, as they welcome them onto the ship to help unindoctrinated polywogs, which is what all you guys are, into becoming shellbacks. And it's just the significance of how much a sailor has maybe earned their salt by sailing many seas and into dangerous areas. Back in the day, it was a little bit more dangerous to go that far away from home ports, whereas now with the nuclear Navy and all of our logistics, it's not really that big of a deal if a ship dips below the equator. But still, we'd like to keep that kind of tradition real. And so then you call upon the old naval sea gods of Poseidon and Neptune to come onto your ship and proceed over an entire 14-hour celebration of them being aboard your ship. Of course, polywogs weren't allowed to stare at anybody who was a shellback. So you spent a lot of time crawling on your hands and knees all aboard the ship for hours on end, as you were sprayed with water to wash off any polywogness, and constantly moved along with shillelaghs, which were fire hoses that were trimmed and cut specifically by other shellbacks on the ship. And that was the fun thing about it, is those people who made the seagoing tradition in their career, they would help the next group, as they were now shellbacks, help the next group of polywogs move along. What I liked about the shellbacking on my ship is the Master Chief on down to the newest enlisted sailor, those who had not been indoctrinated to that got to be put in a position to where even a lower ranking person was senior to them because of their shellback and what they've done for their service in sea. I think those traditions, including tattoos for things that you've done in the Navy to kind of represent where you've been and what you've seen, is an important feature. And I think that's something that we need to really hold on through in this day and age where people are kind of stomping out old traditions because they may be vile or rude. But we need to look to what the traditions mean and make sure we follow up with them. So I'm very proud of my shellbacking, and I think it was an excellent thing that I got to do. I commemorate that by having a shell here to remind me of where I've traveled and what I've seen, and to remind those others who are non-polywogs to know.
Well, thanks for the interview.
Of course.